Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comedian and host of Bachelor Recap, a guy's review. I hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday morning. Happy Hump Day to you, Becca Cuffrin, and everyone else out there celebrating their Hump Day. Speaking of Hump Day, next week is Fantasy Suites. Be sure to tune in for that. And as you can tell by the title of this video and this graphic I have here, we're going to be talking about who may potentially be hosting the After the Final Rose ceremony on The Bachelor. As it's been reported, that we'll be filming this weekend, and we don't know who's hosting it. As you guys know, Chris Harrison has stepped aside for a period of time as he tries to educate himself on what may have gone wrong in his interview with Lindsay and how he addressed the racist scandal within not only the Bachelor Nation but with contestants. So a lot of people have wondered who it's going to be, and I've been reading a ton of your comments. And one of the good things about the channel growing is that I'm able to get to a bigger platform and talk to more people. One of the negatives is I can't possibly respond to all the different comments, but I will challenge you guys with this. The one thing I love about YouTube is that it creates a comment section for a video platform where people can discuss their opinions after watching a video, and there's lots of different threads that go on. What I've noticed, though, is that so many people will address their opinions that haven't watched the actual video. It's just a home base for them to pick a side. Let's focus less on picking a side and more on listening, talking, and having a productive conversation. Empathy and grace are going to be something we talk about a lot moving forward, and it's important for us to understand others, where they come, their walk of life, and not just assuming that because we have experienced a certain thing that we understand everything that there is to know about humanity. The thing I love about Bachelor Nation is that it's one of the last water cooler TV shows out there. I say that because it's released weekly. It's not something where they just dump 12 episodes out to you like a Too Hot to Handle or one of those shows where you're just overwhelmed with content. Every week, there's a storyline that releases, and then we talk about it while we wait for the next storyline to come out. It's great for our country. The common denominator in our country is, there's a divisiveness. There's a picking sides. There's a who did this and who did that and what side are you on, and Team Jacob and Team Jennifer and all these different things, which is, I think, natural for humanity to want to be on a side. You want to pick the winning team for your own survival in one way or another. Well, I just ask you guys this. I've noticed, and like I said, I can't respond to all the comments, but I have noticed a lot of people will post their comments without watching video. I wish there was a way for me to put a video up and then see how long you actually watched it before you gave your comment, and that just doesn't exist. So all I ask of you guys is to just keep an open mind as we discuss all of this, because I think if the final product, the thing we can all strive for, is unity, peace, harmony within our country, and of course, even beyond that, what we have to understand is that we are not there yet. We are not at a place of equality with everything from race, gender, and so many different issues. We're just not there. There are poor communities that don't have access to good food or even good running water. There's communities that, there's a lot of issues within our country. And what's important is to just realize that they actually exist. If we just pretend issues don't exist because we have a good lot in life, that doesn't help the scenario. And because of that, we have an opportunity to have a really amazing outsider host the After the Final Rose ceremony of The Bachelor. Let's just flip through this TMZ article. And by the way, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. I would appreciate that. And thank you guys so much for doing that in advance. It helps the YouTube algorithm. The more people that like it, YouTube goes, got a good video, and then more people see it. And then if you enjoy what I do, and if you enjoy the message we're trying to share, then that's one way to elevate it. The Bachelor outsider sought to host After the Final Rose, replacing Chris Harrison. With Chris Harrison stepping aside for Matt James after the Final Rose ceremony, it's up in the air who will fill his shoes, but we've learned it might be someone outside the franchise. Sources directly familiar with the production tell TMZ ABC appears to be seeking someone who's not part of Bachelor Nation to replace Harrison for the swiftly approaching shoot. That means no former bachelors, bachelorettes, or their suitors, no matter how popular they are. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's a fantastic idea to bring someone on the outside in and be like, why y'all doing that? What are you doing this for? Oh, you didn't like her? Oh, you have this issue? And then they can kind of navigate it in a way that's not just stoking the flames, but with a general curiosity. Essentially, our sources say producers now seem to have their sights set on someone who without ties to the series, but who's still part of ABC's talent pool. That said, they did make a run at one alum. We're told Rachel Lindsay, the first black bachelorette, was asked to take up the mantle, but she declined. She's publicly suggested they consider FS1 sports analyst Emmanuel Acho, who's not only black but also outspoken on issues of race. Let's face it, that's going to be a major topic when cameras roll for after the final rose. Despite Rachel's endorsement, Emmanuel's rep tells us no one's reached out to them yet. Fans have been clamoring for Tayshia Adams, the second ever black bachelorette, to step up in Harrison's place. She's been vocal about the show's racism controversy lately, but producers have not tapped her. I don't know. I don't love Tayshia Adams for the role because I don't see her in any way controversial or asking tough questions. And it doesn't say anything about her. I'm the same way. I just want everyone to be happy and, softball question after softball question. We're going to get into Emmanuel. We're going to get into him. I've mentioned him in previous episodes. As we know, Rachel Kirkconnell took a photo and had this book in the background. It's called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. This is part of Oprah's book club. And let me tell you something, guys. I'll read a few quotes from this, but he's in a very interesting place. I'll tell you this. If you want Chris Harrison to come back, if you're one of the fans that comments and goes, I'm not going to watch the show if Chris Harrison doesn't come back, then I implore you to hear me out for having Emmanuel Acho be the host. He has repeatedly said he's against cancel culture. He wants open lines of conversation, and somebody like Emmanuel would be the perfect shaman to lead Chris Harrison out of whatever ignorant statements and interviews and things like that and sort of implicit biases that he has. I know I'm going to lose you with saying words like implicit bias. We'll talk about it. Implicit bias doesn't always mean race. We all have implicit biases. It's almost like our fight or flight response to everything that's around us. We think we can take some information that we have, piece it all together and make decisions. It's part of our survival. The more we learn about our implicit biases, the more we can make better educated decisions. Okay, so let's finish reading this. Here's Chris Harrison's apology. Is this Chris Harrison's? Oh, that's Matt's statement. Sorry, we've gotten through all this. It's unclear if ABC is specifically looking for a POC, person of color, for this gig, but all signs seem, I hate saying out loud when it's supposed to be read, but all signs seem to point to that being highly considered. It's going to be a sensitive episode, not just because of the Harrison fallout, but a potential face-off between Matt and Rachel Kirkconnell, who's rumored to be the winner. That's their spoiler. Sorry about that. I think if you don't know at this point. Apologies. Matt, it's rumored, but honestly, guys, I don't even feel like I'm spoiling anything because I don't know what the hell happens. So much has changed. Matt has already touched on the range of emotions he's feeling now, and only time will tell how it plays out in front of a live audience. Stay tuned. All right, well, Emmanuel does have some history with contestants from the show. So I'm going to play a clip from a chat he had with Rachel Lindsay, the first black bachelorette, and I will also read a few quotes from just the beginning of his book here that sums it all together. So Emmanuel, his parents are from Nigeria. He's a first-generation African-American, and he grew up in a affluent majority white town, and then went to college at University of Texas in a majority and played football there with I think he said like 80 or 90% of black people. So he thinks that he's got an ability to understand white culture and black culture in a way that not everyone does, and no one's going to get it perfectly, right? No one's going to understand all sides. But there is nuance there, and when he heard that people weren't having certain conversations, he kind of understood that they were people, like a lot of white people, were just scared to ask stupid questions, simple questions, and he was like, "All right, we have a problem, so let's talk about it right here." And this is important for this season of The Bachelor and every episode and seasons moving forward. What's important is to have the conversations and not feel like. In Chris Harrison's interview with Rachel Lindsay, he was very much defensive of Rachel Kirkconnell. He was very much kind of like defending her and not giving grace to all the people that would be affected by the bigotry and racism that was unearthed. So the question is, how do we have those conversations? Ask dumb questions. And maybe this is just me as a stand-up comedian. I'm not afraid to ask a dumb question. All the time I talk to you guys, I don't edit my videos. I'll read a word, I'll mispronounce it, I'll sound stupid. Like it's okay to sound stupid. It's called having a growth mindset. If you don't know something, you Google it, you ask about it. And that's kind of what he's talking about here. Like, let's talk to each other. Let's have hard conversations. If you don't want to buy the book, that's totally fine. You can go to his YouTube channel that I got pulled up right here. He's got all these different interviews that are amazing. He said, I believe an important part of the cure, maybe the most crucial part of it, is to talk to each other. The cure being racism within our country. I mean a two-way dialogue based on trust and respect, full of information exchanged and perspectives shared. The goal here is to build relationships and ultimately to help us recognize each other's humanity. I'd bet some Dallas Cowboys season tickets that it's tough, if not impossible, to hold bigoted thoughts about someone whose humanity you recognize. I'd double down. It would take some next-level self-deluding to discriminate against someone you respect enough to listen to. It's kind of like Daryl Davis, the black musician who befriended a KKK member, and the KKK member had never even had a proper conversation with a black man before. And then after becoming friends, the KKK member literally disrobed and gave Daryl Davis his KKK memorabilia or whatever you call it, and that's a star. I mean, just being exposed to other cultures, you don't realize, some people don't realize how bigoted and close-minded they are because they just grew up in a society that things are already sort of segregated in a way. Like certain people live over there, certain people live over there, and it's just this quiet complicity. Well, we don't need a quiet complicity. We need to start, marching together. You know what I mean? By the way, okay, so if things go the way I want, you will leave this book with an increased understanding of race. You will have more empathy and grant people more grace. And if you have more empathy and are more gracious, then you'll be less judgmental. And if you're less judgmental, then your judgment is less likely to play itself out in racism. And isn't that the most basic prayer out there? God grant me grace. Isn't that kind of just asking for grace and wanting grace? Isn't that the most sort of peaceful, sort of serendipitous way to live? If we truly want to treat this 400-year-old American virus that has been doing its work since the first stolen Africans landed in Jamestown in 1619, then we're all going to have to buckle in. Yeah, we got a long way to go, folks. Last quote here. The long answer, let me first point out that everyone has, this is about implicit bias. Let me first point out that everyone has implicit biases, including me. They're not just about race. They're your knee-jerk judgment about every superficial difference between people. And don't get me wrong, you shouldn't beat yourself up for every single biased thought or decision. If you see a clown and think danger, look, you're not the only one. At the same time, you're responsible for your biases, if for no other reason than that there are ways to make them more conscious. And when an idea is conscious, you can change your mind. This is, and I'll end on this part, because we talked the other day about privilege and how it exists in so many different ways. It's not just white privilege or, privilege of, it's wealth privilege, being born next to a certain school or having good libraries growing up, educational privileges. There's different types of attraction privilege, straight teeth privilege. They come in different ways, and it's just, it doesn't mean you get everything you want out of life. There's plenty of white people that go, privileged, I grew up in a poor town. Yeah, but you can still go to an airport and be seen as a white person by a collective society that sees you as better than somebody else. So privileges, they just get you closer to the finish line. In a 2016 article titled Whitened Resumes, Race and Self-Preservation in the Labor Market, professors from Harvard, Stanford, and the University of Toronto reported on a 2-year study about the effect of people of color using whitewashed names on their resumes. Lamar J. Smith became L. James Smith, etc. I'll give you one wild guess what the researchers discovered. Yep, applicants with white-sounding names were more likely to be called back for an interview, and not just by a little bit. They were almost twice as likely to be called back. So implicit bias, it's things that you just don't know you even have. I was talking about Ted Cruz because he flew out of Texas during, a crisis, and everyone's like, well, what could he have done? He literally could have, if he jump-started one person's car and saved a life, it would have been better than going to get tacos on a Tuesday. So someone said, well, Ted Cruz, he's got privilege and he's not white. And I would say, well, in some ways he's got privilege, he's got power, he's got senatorial privilege. But at the same time, if someone saw a resume for a Ted Cruz and a Tom Cruise, C-R-U-I-S-E, Tom Cruise gets picked up double the amount of times as the Ted Cruz, C-R-U-Z. There's a bias there. There's a Latino, a Cuban, but there's a bias there. There's a bias if it's, you know what I mean? So we can't move forward if we don't even acknowledge that these things exist. And there's a lot of people that say, well, we're still, we've come so far and this and that. We're stretching, guys. We're stretching to that next level of enlightenment. And that's what Bachelor does. Whether it's their purpose or not, they're like a free market economy led by ratings. So they'll have Leon who posts, you remember Lee, he had those super, he had racist tweets, but that led to a conversation on the Men Tell All that probably was productive, and he apologized to people, and he said, yeah, that was really racist, I apologize. And you know what? Sometimes if it can be a delicate situation where sometimes people get radicalized when they're shamed, when they're canceled. Sometimes it works the wrong way. So the delicate balance is this. How did the people that feel offended that Chris Harrison didn't have their backs, the people that feel like The Bachelor hasn't had enough tough conversations about diversity and owned up to years of not kind of having diversity from producers all the way down to everyone who works on the show. How do they feel with Chris Harrison moving forward? How do they feel with The Bachelor trying to grapple with the issues that they're trying to educate themselves on? And then how do the people feel that just see Chris Harrison as their TV dad and they don't want him being canceled? So where's the middle ground there? Where do you make it all work? I think it's with like a guy like Emmanuel Acho having these tough conversations, because it's so funny in the corporate world and also in like network TV, and everyone's so scared to say the wrong thing, because if you do say the wrong thing, if you do come off the wrong way, you could be canceled. You could get fired from that job, which is canceling. That's why I invest my time into things like YouTube, stand-up comedy, things that I can build equity within myself, because I would never want to be caught saying the wrong thing as I'm trying to explain it from a place of, I'm explaining this from a place where I'm trying to come off as graceful as possible. You know what I mean? And I know you guys give me the benefit of the doubt. The channel's blown up in the last couple of months. So I know you guys understand that these conversations can happen with a black guy, a white guy, and anyone in between. We all are coexisting here. Okay, so let's just play a quick clip from Emmanuel. This is from his YouTube channel, and it's called an extended version of Interracial Relationships, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. So he started this YouTube channel before he wrote the book. But the book, I mean, so either way, whether you have the funds to get the book, it's always good to support him, but also supporting his YouTube is great as well. And this is just an extended clip with Rachel Lindsay. So let's take a look at this.
Before you met his family, you told me that you asked Brian a very, very important question that would dictate whether or not you would choose him. What was that question?
Yeah, so for your audience who doesn't know, on The Bachelor, we go to hometowns where you actually go into the home of the last 4 people and you meet the family. So it was very important for me to ask Brian, have you ever dated a black woman? And not just dated, have you ever brought a black woman home? And would your family accept me?
And what was your answer?
Honestly, my parents said, I'm gonna love whoever you love. At the end of the day, like whatever makes you happy, we're gonna be all for it. Now, granted, my parents are Colombian. Would they have wanted me to, marry somebody Colombian, that they could, vibe with a little bit more? Absolutely. Like we had this conversation the other day. I'm saying, wouldn't your parents want you to marry, somebody black? And they're like, yeah, they would probably prefer that. But at the end of the day, I think they both agree that as long as you're happy, that's all we care about.
It's so important to have these conversations. I know people who are in interracial relationships who just avoid it, who just don't talk about it. And then they're shocked when something comes up and it's something that they're not expecting. You have to talk about these things and have these tough conversations to prepare yourself for where you're going with your relationship.
Did you, PK, have to ask Lindsay essentially the same thing? Like, hey, you're from Minnesota. I don't know how they get down. I'm from Canada. Will your family accept me?
Listen.
I think I kind of deflected that one. I think I kind of deflected because I
Interrupting
always
them.
feel like if I love somebody, that my family should love them too. And I guess that kind of goes to the same, same question I had before, is that like, I don't see color, and I don't think my family should either, but that doesn't mean that their response is
You got a face. Like you.
I'm marrying Lindsay, right? Her family is important, but as long as Lindsay's happy, that's all I care about, right? And, I respect her family, I respect everybody, I respect her friends, but if there are people that, don't like me because of the color of my skin, then...
That's their problem.
I mean, I don't waste 1 second thinking about it.
So many episodes of this channel, of Emmanuel's channel, look like amazing to watch. I won't play anymore. A conversation with the police. He sat down with a full police station. It had an amazing conversation, guys. So the idea, and this is where I'm lost by like ABC and Bachelor hiding behind Chris Harrison's like statement, and then he goes away for a while. The idea of this being how we operate in 2021 is bonanza to me. This is how we operate in 2021. Guys like Emmanuel sitting down, taking as many hours as it takes with a guy like Chris Harrison. Bring in Rachel Lindsay. Bring in Tayshia, Ivan. Bring in Mike Johnson. Bring in white contestants. Have the conversation. It doesn't have to be, we're going to have an all-black season, an all-white season. We have to get rid of this, folks. We have to have a conversation. I can't police the comment section. Please do your best to give grace, listen to others, and understand there is a solution that isn't cancel Chris, start all over. There is a solution that isn't where Rachel Lindsay is so awful for asking these questions. People go, a lot of people will say their disagreements with Rachel Lindsay. They'll say, she creates so much controversy. She casts a large wake. She's always prodding and poking. And it's like, well, damn if our country doesn't need a little bit of that. Damned if our country is sick and tired of the complicity that we've had in the ho-humness that this is the way it is. I mean, I'm not here to dive into every single aspect of culture and the issues that we have, but I ask that you guys take the time, as I am, to listen to other people, to understand that, like my initial thought was like Chris Harrison got a raw deal. And I still, to a degree, think that, but for different reasons. Because I know we're missing out on a conversation that can be happening. And I know it's because of bad advice that's like, just go on a break, go join Ted Cruz over there in Cancun and just relax and get out of the public light. Like, yeah, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. Chris Harrison can listen, but he can also, get Emmanuel on speed dial and have conversations using both his platform, Emmanuel's, Rachel's, and then we can all do a little bit of just understanding other people's points of views. Let me know what you guys think. I'll tell you as soon as I know who's going to host the After the Final Rose. It'll be fascinating, but let me know what you guys think. Please be respectful. I ask you that. And like this video, and I'll see you guys later on for more content. I've been Dave Neal. Goodbye, everybody.